Harihi Om. Om Gajananam Mahakayam Vicknarajam Vinayakam Vishvesham Vishvashaksham Ganeshayam Namo Namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Tat Purushaya Vitmahe Vakratundhaya Dhimahi Dhanno Dhandit Prachodaya. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Sarva Lokhanam Visajeva Paroginaha Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshinamurthaye Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Sarveshwararphanamastu. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sarirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopam Karota Pravanina Pathanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankachakrasidharinam Sahasrasirisham Devam Pranamami Patanjali. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Yogishvara Arpanamastu. Nyada Sharanam. Sai Ram. Welcome to week 9 in our journey exploring the Yoga Sutras by the great and accomplished Maharishi Sri Patanjali. Remember, as I always said, the aim of these sessions is to inculcate an understanding of these magnificent works and to attempt to enliven those values, to live those values in our daily lives. So regardless of whether you are competent or whether you have a desire to repeat the verses, that is the secondary issue, right? Again, you need some level of competence to recite them. But even without reciting them, if you just extract the lesson and you inculcate it in your day-to-day lives, then you have done exactly what was intended by the creators or authors of these great works, right? Merely chanting is not enough. As we said many times, mechanical chanting doesn't get you anywhere, right? So don't worry if you cannot read, or if you cannot chant, or if you cannot recite. Just take the practice and put it in your day-to-day lives, and you are doing exactly what the rishis have asked you. So in week 9, we look at further verses of 99 to 112. And we've got 196 verses, so we are almost there, right? This one we're looking at, verses 99 to 112. Also halfway through, we'll finish the second book and we'll go into the third book, right? And I'll tell you when exactly. So continuing on with the second book, which is Sadhana Pada. We looked at some up to verse 47 last week. So in verse 48, Patanjali is saying, Tatha dvandva anabhigataha. Tatha means then, dvandva means dwa, it's in duality, right? What is dual? Days, night, good, bad, positive, negative, right, wrong. happiness, sadness, right? All this is dualities, hot, cold, Anabhigata means it will not make any difference. There is no growth or expansion. There is no shrinkage, contraction. There is absolutely no botheration at all. He says, once you get to a stage of mind that is equanimous in its thinking, equanimity, a state of mental equanimity, from then on, he said, there are no botherations from the dualities of the world that affects you externally. Like I said, happiness and sadness and sukha, dukkha, hot, cold, right, wrong, positive, negative, day, night. So how do you get this? And he goes on to explain, one of in the Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 parts, right? The third one is asana. Asana is posture. So when your body achieves its own perfect alignment or posture, then it will run perfectly. Just like you take your car for something called wheel balancing or alignment, right? What they're trying to do is they are trying to put the 4 tires in perfect alignment. The wheel balancing is done so that the car doesn't veer right, doesn't veer left, but is going straight on the road. Right? The road holding of the car becomes perfect with the direction in which it is heading. It's not going to, if you leave the steering wheel, it's not going to go left, it's not going to go right. So this asana is the alignment similar to the wheel balancing for the car that you do, what you're doing for your deha, for your body. And he says, when the practicing yogi or yogini, as the case may be, when that body strikes its perfect posture, then effortless linkage will happen between the mind and the upper conscious levels. Remember, I said you vibrate at a conscious level, but the idea of this is to extend yourself to the subconscious, and from the subconscious, propel yourself into the superconscious, right? So here in this verse, tatha dvandaha anadigataha, he's saying, once you reach that stage, and how do you know you reach that stage? You try different postures, isn't it? There will be 1 or 2 with which you're comfortable. Take the one that you're most comfortable with and practice your meditation in that posture. That's why he's saying, when that perfect posture that the body is most accustomed to, that the body is extremely comfortable with, and it's at absolute ease, then continuous, effortless linkage will happen between the attention of the conscious to the attraction of the subconscious to the contraction of the superconscious. Fantastically, he's saying. So you can start at a lower level, but the idea is the more you do something, the better you become. Otherwise, something is wrong, isn't it? If you're doing it all the time and you're not getting anywhere, you get the same experience. That means you must change some things. If you keep doing the same thing and you get the same results. If you change something, some results will change. If you change the whole thing of the method in which you exercise your dhyana practice or your dhyana meditation, then your results will completely change. Tatha dvandaha anabhigataha. At that point, you will see it changing. So says Patanjali. Then in verse 50, he goes on to say, Bahya abhyantaraha stamba vritti desha kala samyakbhi pratidrishtaha dirgha sukshmaha. He's saying Bahya, as in Bahar in Hindi, And abhyantara means like andhar, inside. So Bahya is external, abhyantara is internal, outside, inside. And I'll tell you what he means by outside, inside once I explain each of these verses. Sthambaha means to control, to restrain, to suppress, to restrict, Vritti means that which you are doing, like your activity, your operation, your movement, Desha, as you know, Deha is body, Desha is place, Kala is time. Samkhya means in increasing counts. Paridrishtaha means like it's accounted for, it's measured, in other words, right? Dirgaha means long, longevity, prolonged. and sukshma. Sukshma is subtleness, Sukshma, stula, and sthira. Sukshma is subtle. Subtle means it's hardly seen, hardly visible, hardly noticeable. So when all these meanings are put together, you want to make a contextual sense of it, right? Bahya abhyantara stambha vriti deshakala samkhyabi pradirishtaha didgha sukshmaha. Basically means this has internal, external, and restrictive operations which are regulated according to the time, to the place, and to the prolonged breath or hardly noticed breath after prolonged use. When you keep doing something, after some time, you don't realize. Effortlessly, you will do it, isn't it? This is what he means. So what does he mean by internal, external, and restrictive operations? Bahya, abhyantara, stambha, vritti. This is the 4 words he's talking about. Bahya, abhyantara, stambha, stuti. That means what? He's saying pranayama should actually be learned from a qualified teacher who is proficient in the art of improving your breathing. That means the teacher's own sense of breathing and appreciation of these signs of yoga should be such where he is able to do that, not only for himself, but for others. Such teachers in this day, right, as difficult as it is for you to hear this, is very difficult to find, because this has become another area of commercialized revenue for many people, right? For many, many people, teaching yoga, teaching meditation, all this, or talking about, spiritual subjects, all this has become money-making business. So the genuine teachers of the yore, those days, they're all gone. Now you have businesses. I'm not saying there are not any genuine teachers out there, but it's difficult to find them because they don't do, marketing. They don't do publications. They are there, right? So those who seek them out, you'll get the right teacher. So why Patanjali is saying this is, they must teach you the right way to breathe. Because, if you breathe the right way, you are actually, in a sense, your posture is important. So they should correct, right? They will start with the yama and then move you on to niyama and then asana, then pranayama, then pratyahara, then dharana, then dhyana, then samadhi. So they will follow that strictly, right? So I visited one ashram once in Kashi during my yatra there. There was one person I was talking to. He just joined the yatra for the last 7-8 months. He said he's been there. I said, so what do you do? What are you learning? He said, nothing. The Guruji is making me wash the floors, wash the dishes, everything. I said, 7 months you haven't learned any meditation. He said, no, 7 months I'm doing this. That means he's starting with the yama stage, physical discipline. Niyama is mental discipline or mental detachment from all the sensory objects. Then only I think the Guruji will call him and teach him some asana. Then in doing that asana, he will teach him the art of breathing, pranayama, then how to concentrate and move away, then go into dharana, complete, right? Contemplation, then go into dhyana, complete meditation. Only if the dharana is right, dhyana will be right. Only if the dhyana is right, then you can attach yourself to samadhi like that. So basically what he's saying is, you have to learn how to internalize the breath and how to externalize the breath. This is what he means by bahya abhyantaraha stambha vritti. That activity of breathing should have 3 stages, right? That means, what are the 3 stages? Like, I follow the 1-4-2 method. 1-4-2 means you breathe in from one nostril. That means you close, for example, you close your right nostril, then you breathe to your left. 1 count, breathe in. And then the 1-4-2. The 4 is you hold the breath for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you breathe out in the nostril that you shut earlier. 2 counts. 1, 2. Then you reverse it. Block the left one and breathe in 1. Hold 4. Release 2. Right? This is the right way to breathe, and according to the Yoga Sutras. And of course, once you do that, the one should slowly be elongated. Remember in this verse, the word prolonged comes. This is where Patanjali Maharishi is saying, slowly extend the 1 to long breath. Slowly extend the 4 to counts of 8, and then 12, and then 16, like that. Now, of course, you have to be comfortable. So you take in as much, hold as much, and exhale as much. So 1, 4, 2. Then it becomes 2, 8, 4, like that, You just times it by 2. 1, 4, 2, 2, 8, 4, and then 4, 12, and 6, like that. So you continue to do it. So hold 1, close 1 nostril. After you do it sometime, you don't have to physically close it, Automatically the body will adjust, recalibrate its breathing apparatus. Just like you recalibrate equipments. The body will immediately follow suit because you've been doing it so many times. The mind is now already in that direction. The mind is already being told, okay, I'm starting this, you know what to do, right? So you have to learn from someone who's qualified to teach, an accomplished person who's only doing these things as a matter of practice, right? So that is verse 50, giving you the art of breathing. Then he goes on in 51 to say, Bhakya abhyantara vishaya vikshepi chaturtaha. Now, chaturtaha means the 4th one. So earlier he talked about 3 stages, right? Which is Bhakya, abhyantara, and stamba, as in vritti, right? The activity is threefold. Here is telling Bhakya abhyantara visaya akshepi chaturtaha. That which transcends the 3 stages of external, internal, and control goes to the 4th stage and becomes pranayama, right? So what does he mean? Bhakya is, as I said, external. Abhyantara is internal. Vishaya means the objective of doing this internal, external is to transcend to the 4th. Akshepi, transcend. Chaturtha means the 4th. So what is it? He says there are 3 types of operation, right? That is internalizing the breath, holding it, and then externalizing it, right? So internalizing, holding or restricting, and then externalizing. There must be some pause, If you just check your own breathing, right? You just breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And you're not even conscious that you're using your nose or your mouth. Half the time you're using your mouth. The mouth is not at all involved in the art of breathing. That itself should tell you that you know whether you're doing something right or not. Only the nose is for breathing, right? The act of vayu or prana goes into and comes out, goes into and comes out. Only through from left to right and right to left, right? That is a cyclical movement of the breathing. So mouth is not involved at all. That's why they say when you're breathing, close your mouth. Because if you start either internalizing the air through the mouth or externalizing the air through the mouth, then it gets in the way of the meditation. So they say, even the eyes should be closed or gently open. Right? So he's saying there are 3 types: internalizing, holding or restricting, and then externalizing. He said the 4th one is where you go beyond these 3. Chaturtaha, akshepi chaturtaha. So you transcend from these 3 of breathing in, holding the breath, breathing out. Once you get to a stage of, complacency or comfort, and the objective is to transcend to the 4th. So what is the 4th? He's telling from darkness to light. Right? So you must move. This is going back to the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. When I was talking to you about the Upanishads, I said to you about the prayer that we always recite, which is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is Asattoma Satgamaya Tamasthoma Jodit Gamaya, Mrityorma Amridam Gamaya. Right? Asat, untruth. Sat, truth. So Asathoma Sat Gamaya, move me from untruth to the truth. Then Tamasthoma Jodir Gamaya, from darkness to light. Right? Second, another third one. Mrityorma Amridam Gamaya, from death to immortality. This is what he is referring to. You are moving away from the untruth and the impermanence of this Bhuloka to the truth of the Satyaloka, which is permanent. You're moving away from all the darkness and irregularities that consume this world to the light that never ceases. And of course, that means you're moving away from death to immortality. That is the fourth stage. Beautifully he's saying this. So in the next verse, 52, he's saying, Tatha shiyate prakasha avaranam. Tatha means then. Shiyate means that which is reduced or dissipated or lessened. Prakasha means light, tejas, brightness. Avarana means that which covers. So something that is covering light. So he's not talking about, ordinary electricity light. He's talking about the light of your mental energy. Either it is shiny and bright or it is dark and dull. So he says, once you have transcended, say, connecting back to the earliest sloka, right? Where he says, you must move. Akshepi chatuttaha. Once you move to the fourth stage, then from this stage, all mental darkness is removed. Mental darkness that is blocking or suppressing the light or that is concealing the light, this concealment will be completely lifted and you will be in a complete state of light, which means basically liberation. Mukti, mokshaha. This is advanced pranayama. It just doesn't come, it comes after years of restrained practice. Remember, I said to you, yoga is mind, body, and then only soul. That which regulates and harmonizes and balances the point between the mind, the body, and the soul. So first, you have to regulate and control that mind. Then from that regulation control, you go and discipline your body by sitting in the pose, by sitting in different poses, regulate and practice that. And then only this mind and body can link with the soul. So it just doesn't come with few years. How many years I've been doing this meditation, man? Come on, brother. What are you saying? What I'm saying there is no discipline. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. If you just go straight to dhyana without mastering the earlier 6 stages, you're not going to get it. This is what prakasha means. Prakasham only comes continuously if you do something. If you take a black pot, an aluminum pot, and you just wash it under running water, the blackness will not go, right? But if you use some implement like sand or soap or whatever, and you wash it, but you don't use force, you just put it round like that, and you put it under running water, the blackness will still be there. If you start using force and focus on one place, and then you put that under running water, that place will become shiny and clean. That blackness will go away. Then you move to the next stage. If you do that stage by stage by stage by stage, at one point, completely the pot will become bright and shiny. The pot is your mind. The shininess or the soap and all that you use, or the hardness of your scrubbing, that is your impact of how much you practice, how much you put into practice. That is your sankalpa, that is your undertaking, that is your effort. Without that effort, the dark mind will always be filled with dark space. You want to remove the dark mind and fill it with bright space, then in order to bring that prakasha, you have to shiyate, dissipate that which is causing those darkness, which can be related to yama or niyama or wrong pose, asana, or wrong breathing, pranayama, or the absence of concentration, pratyahara, or the reduction in contemplation, dharana, or the error in meditation, dhyana. Then you can't get samadhi, go back to the source of being, right? So verse 52 is telling you can, if you reach that stage of competence. Then in 53, he is saying, Dharanasu cha yogyatha manasaha. Dharanasu means one, when you have the desire to link to the higher forces, right? Cha yogyatha means, and in order to link to the higher forces, yogyatha means you must be fit for it. Yogya. Yogya means good, fit. Ayogya means unfit. Right? That's why you see the reference in some conversations, ayogya, that means ayogyan, they say in Tamil. Like that means not fit, unfit. What must be fit? Excuse me. What must be fit? The mind, manasaha. So in order for you to link to the higher forces of the subconscious and the superconscious, you must become fit in your manasaha, your mind. So he's saying, and from that, attained is the state of mind that allows you to link to the higher concentration forces or to the higher conscious forces. This is dharana is talking about now. Remember, the 5 stages must happen first for you to talk about dharana, right? One has to make the mind fit for the practice of yoga. If the mind is not willing, you can sit in an asana for hours, for days. It's not going to make a difference. If the mind is fit, you can only sit for 15 minutes and you can link up easily. It's like Wi-Fi, if there's 1 bar and there's 5 bar, how fast you link, to the cyber energy or to the Wi-Fi space. Like that. The moment you go into meditation, you close your eyes and you regulate your breathing. It depends how good you are doing it, whether it's 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 or full bars, 5 bars, right? So he's saying in this dharana sucha yogyatha manasaha, as far as the mind is concerned, so long as it is fit for the purpose of meditation, it will prepare itself to link to the higher forces of the mental, emotional energy. Right? It's fantastic what he's saying. This is mastership, he's telling. The moment you are able to regulate your breathing, the moment you are able to sit in one asana that is most comfortable to you, that's why there are so many asanas. Choose one that is most comfortable to you. And then in that pose, continuously regulate your breathing. So once that pose and the breathing becomes, then the mind slowly becomes in tuned, right? In track with what you want to do. Then consistent practice of that asana and pranayama will push you to dhyana stage. And from dhyana stage, of course, you will go to samadhi sooner or later. And that's why he's talking about once you go into dharana, before you go into dhyana, you have to withdraw from your senses, sense-based objects. From your karma indriyas must be completely restrained. That's why in verse 54 he's telling swa visaya asamprayoge chittasya swarupa anukaraha iva indriyanam pratyaharaha. He's telling swa means on their own, visaya means the objects that you look at, the objects of perception, your visualization. Asamprayoge means it doesn't become small. What you see is exactly what it is. Even though in your mind you make it big or small, that size does not change, right? Chittasya, that mental energy is completely controlled by the mind, not by what you see, right? Swarupa, anukara, that means the form that is imitated, right? Iva, as if, indriyanam, your senses, and pratyahara means withdrawal. So what you see and what the mind perceives can only be achieved at a state of balance when you are able to withdraw from all the sensual energy and its focus on the mind. I mean, it's just fantastic. As I said, it's, clinical precision. Exact scalpel is cutting like that. A very competent surgeon will just hold the scalpel like that and he'll just tell you which part of the anatomy he's cutting and what you will see when the wound opens. That is the precision of the most competent surgeon. Likewise, the most competent yogi The moment he goes into that state of meditation, he is able to withdraw from his sensual energies that controls or lays burden on the mind. The withdrawal of senses, the verse basically means the withdrawal of senses is, as it were, right, the assumption of the form which the eyes perceive, and the mind is controlled by that perception. The withdrawal of senses is to go beyond that and says, this is unreal, that, and only that is real. So moving away from that, right? Pratyahar, 3 stages, meaning to withdraw and go to the opposite and not to the pulling energy of what you see and what you think. Go to the opposite. It wants me, so I want to go in the opposite direction, right? That's what he's saying. Try to withdraw from the attraction and the pull of and the magnetic pull of your senses. Chitta. Chitta is thoughts, isn't it? This cannot be outward bound. See, all your thoughts are going outside bound. I want to go there. I want to eat this. I want to drink that. Everything is outside. He is saying, internalize this. What do I need for this body to survive? What do I need for this mind to grow and transcend and expand itself into, the other verse, the metaverses that exist? Then you slowly move away. If you completely sit in a place and you're completely, circumvented by desha, place you are, and kala, the time you are in, then you are never going to leave. You won't have that outer body experience. The idea of sitting and going into meditation is to transcend beyond that, right? So I said, if you have a competent teacher, he can give you that experience. And if he's there with you, he can, because sometimes people have the capacity to have that discipline to go out, but don't know how to come back. So if the teacher is there, he can bring the people back. Otherwise, it becomes an issue. Right? And good, very competent teachers will tell you what are the parameters of practice. The ones who are doing it for business will just give you a YouTube kind of, a YouTube kind of demonstration and then say, this is it. This is it. So verse 55 is the last verse in the second book called Sadhana Pada, where he's saying, Tatha parama vasyatha indriyanam. Tatha parama vasyatha indriyanam. What does that mean? Tatha means, of course, I said, then, once you've done this, then what happens? Then, parama means highest. Vasyatha means control. Indriyana means senses. Then, if you do that, the highest degree of control of the senses will come to you. When you've accomplished that. What I said to you in verse 54, right? Pratyahara, he's talking about pratyahara. Pratyahara, when practiced continuously and then mastered, gives the practitioner the qualification to go to the next stage, which is the mystical plane. So far, you are just at the worldly plane, right? And then you may go into the subconscious. No, this is talking about the superconscious, the mystical plane of the superconscious. You don't know what you're going to see. So what are you perceiving? What are you, projecting? What are you hoping to get? And this is why he's saying, once you've done that, the highest degree of control of the senses will descend upon you. Because without that, you cannot go to the next stage. So it will come when you are physically and mentally prepared. Now you see, mind, body, straight away you are going to the soul element, mystical plane. Therein ends the second book. So if I can just remind you, right, the first book was called Samadhi Pada. And remember, I said to you that had 51 sutras, which we've covered. And that defines what is yoga and what doing yoga can lead to. So a sense of enlightenment, or mukti, liberation, or moksha, liberation. Then the second book, which you've just completed with 55 sutras, the last sutra we just did, verse 55 of the second book, Sadhana Pada, talks about the relationship or the connection or the link or the nexus between the student and the higher energies. Right? That's what we've been talking in the second book. Now, we're going to chapter 3, which is the Vibhuti Pada, which is dedicated to the practice and self-discipline of the practitioner or the aspiring yogi. This book has got 56 sutras. Then when we finish this 56 in a couple of weeks, we will move on to the last book, which is Kaivalya Pada, which is basically telling you in 34 sutras how to move away to liberation from the pangs of suffering. Fantastic, right? So let's look at Vibhuti Pada. Vibhuti Pada means the glory that is displayed. So verse 1 talks about Desha Bandaha Chittasya Dharana. Desha means where you're placed or location. Bandha means to confine, to restrict, to, put yourself in a limitation. Chittasya means, of course, your mental, emotional. Dharana means attention or concentration on one thing. Right. So here, the verse 1 in Vibhuti Pada is telling you, linking the attention of your mind to a concentrated place involves restricting the location in the mind, not physically. So you can go to the most quietest place. The place may be quiet, but the mind may be so noisy. At the same time, by an inverse application of the same verse, you can say you can go to the most, loudest of places, but the mind can still be silenced. This is what he's talking about. How you link is not where you are, but where your mind is. Right? And often I said, I've tried this, right? I will go into the tube and I will switch off. And just as when my stop comes, maybe 50 minutes later, 55 minutes later, I'll open my eyes, because the mind is far more agile and far more aware and far more conscious than you physically. Because why? Because physically, when your eyes is open, your ears are open, your mouth is open, you are attracted by all the sensory sounds and visuals that is around you. But your mind is not like that. The mind does not look at all these things. Once you are in that state of concentration, it tries to link. And if you give the right sort of direction or dictation to the mind, it will do as you say. So before I switch off, I say, wake me up when this particular station comes, or sound me, or, boom, suddenly like that. And the same thing I do when I set, alarms. Every day I'll set alarm at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, depending on, where I'm going that morning. But I say to the mind, 1 minute before this alarm goes off, get up and switch it off. Don't let it ring. Initially, it didn't happen, but after some time, now I'll still put it, because that's the only way I can check if my mind is listening to me, right? So I'll get up 1 minute before I switch it off. It means anybody can do that. It's control. That's why he's saying, Desa bandha chittasya dharana. Once you control, the dharana is there in your chitta, your thoughts, then desha bandha does not, you cannot be bound by, geographical limitations. So you can be in one place physically, but in a mind, you can be always like that. And some weeks ago, I think I told you how I travel to temples without going to temples physically. In your mind, you go to all these places. And sometimes you can be there for hours in the temple. Just as physically you take a plane and you go to a place, you take the car, and then you go, and then one whole day, half day you spend there. You can just sit and do that from where you are. That is how powerful your mind is, right? That is how powerful yoga is. It allows you to do that. This is called the higher states of meditation, where what you see and what you feel does not affect how your mind responds or how your mind thinks. Because your mind is set like that. Remember, you can control your mind like that, right? Remember, I told you the story about the elephants. As this person went to, South India, and he went to Kerala and Tamil Nadu. He saw in many places huge elephants were only tied by a little string to a pole. Now, this guy is thinking, how can such a big, huge, magnificent, powerful, fierce animal be tried by a mere rope? And he's wondering why the elephant does not break loose. So when he went to Kerala, somewhere near Guruvayur, he stopped at the elephant sanctuary and he asked the caretakers, how is it that you only tie this great big animal by a small rope to a pole, but it doesn't break loose and it doesn't run amok and it doesn't do that? The man is telling, from the time this elephant was a small baby, we tied the leg to this pole. Small time, it has tried many times to leave, to run away, to break away, but it has never been able to. After some time, the elephant tells itself, I cannot break away from this bondage of the rope, which is tying my leg. So it grows with that mental state of thinking, and that thought is embedded in the mind of the elephant. So even if it grows such a big, huge animal, the thought is, you can't break away from this, so don't even try. That's how powerful the mind is. What you put in and what you suppress, what you embed, what you feed it is what it will respond to. So put the right sort of thing in your mind. So, positive mental attitude. Put things that empower you. That's why they have something called affirmations. When you get up in the morning, you say that. Why? It is to empower the mind. Only when the mind is empowered, the body can follow suit. Right? That way. I'm trying to think of a book. I can't recall the name, but maybe when I think of it later. Then second verse in Vibhudipada is saying, Tatra pratyaya ekatanatha dhyanam. Tatra, then, there. Tatha and tatra is different, right? Tatra means in that place. Tatha means then. Tatra pratyaya, your belief, your mental conviction, right? Your instinctiveness. Ekatanatha. Ekata means eka is one. Tanatha means that which flows. Like a fibrous thing. It flows in one. Dhyanam, of course, is meditation. Once you are in that stage or that place, then your belief, your conviction, or your sense of instinctiveness becomes one, ekatanatha, and flows effortlessly into the area of the higher consciousness. Right? So basically, this verse means when one reaches that location of comfortable surrounding, you do it often, you get to that stage, isn't it? Like sometimes you go to some place, you will sit in the same place, like students in a class, once they sit at a bench, at a desk, they will think that is theirs. So every time they're going to sit in the same place. Why? Because it gives them a sense of comfort, a sense of belonging. So he's saying, Maharishi Patanjali is saying, even in yoga, once you reach that stage, that's why I said to you earlier, when you adopt a pose that is most comfortable to you, that pose is what you should focus on. You try many, and then one you're comfortable with, that's the one you should use. He's saying when in that location, there is one continuous thread-like flow of one's instinctive basis or instinctive interest that becomes effortless in its linkage to the higher forces of consciousness. Simple, right? The key term here is pratyaya. Pratyaya means your mental content, your mental instinctiveness, your mental conviction, all of that. Right? Pratyaya means the flow of energy. Right? Pratyaya comes from pratyahara, leads to pratyaya, leads you into dhyana comfortably, right? So every stage links to the next stage, basically. And it's why I'm saying once you're in that location, that stage of comfort and ease, you will go into the next stage without any problem. Right? Then verse 3 is saying, Tadeva Arthamatra nirbasham swarupa sunyam iva samadhihi. Tadeva means tat eva, that and only that alone. Artha means purpose, the objective. Matra means not only. this and others, right? Swarupa means own form. Sunya means it's like empty, like void, if you like, right? Iva means as if, and Samadhi, of course, merging with the initial energy as one. So he's continuing what he said in verse 2, in verse 3, by saying that same effortless linkage of the attention gives you the experience of illuminating yourself from one level of light to another level of light. If you imagine a bulb at 40 watts, that's one stage of illumination. Then you increase that brightness to 60, right? Same bulb, but emanating different energy, therefore different light. Then you change it to 80, then you change it to 100. The same bulb is capable of moving its energy levels to higher and giving you brighter and brighter and brighter, is exactly what he's saying the mind can do. If you only want to stay at the 40, then your brightness will be dull. But you have the capacity to move it from 40 to 60, 60 to 80, 80 to 100, until you merge and you become one with the brightness. Remember the example I always give you of, you light a candle. So the candle has got a little flame at the top of it, right? Then you light a matchstick. Now the matchstick has also got a flame, and you can see clearly the flame on the matchstick and the flame on the candle. But if you move that matchstick into the flame of the candle, you cannot distinguish between which flame belongs to the matchstick and which flame belongs to the candle, because the flames have merged. This is the Jivatma and the Paramatma merging in the same sense. Light is the only thing that can say you and I are one. Ekatma, right? Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvam Asi, Prajnanam Brahma. So this is what he's saying in this. Tadeva Arthamatra Nirvasham Swarupa Sunyam Iva Samadhihi. And verse 4 is in Trayam Ekatra Samyamam. Trayam, Trai means three. Ekatra, the three things in one place, right? Samyamam means the coming together, right? Completeness of the restraint of those three things. The three as one practice is complete restraint. Which three is talking about? He's talking about the internalization, the restriction, and the externalization, the breathing process, pranayama, right? If this samyama or samyaham, is discussed. Krishna talks about it in the Gita, and I remember talking to you about this when I did Bhagavad Gita with you in chapter 4, right? Where in one word, Krishna is telling Arjuna, Strothadini indriyani anye samyagamanishu juvati. He's telling sometimes yogis will go into austere or severe yoga austerities in order to self-restrain themselves from all the sensual actions and the breath functions. Stotrani indriyani anye samyagamani shujuvati. So he talks about that in chapter 4 to quite some extent. Because if you remember correctly, right, Arjuna was not able to appreciate the situation where he had to fight his own blood, kith and kin, right? So Krishna is explaining, even yogis, sometimes to get to a stage where they need to be, they have to restrain themselves from all the sensual perceptions and, sense desires. You are bound by this sense desire by looking at that person and thinking he is my pitama, he is my, cousin, he is my brother, he is my servant. How can I fight them? Move away from this. Control, complete restraint. That's why he's talking in the same vein in Yoga Sutras. Maharishi Patanjali is saying the same thing. The three, when practiced as one, will give you samyamam, complete restraint. Complete restraint means where you are able to control your senses, and then, that will push you into an illuminative experience, if you like. So if you look at Gita, chapter 4, I think in the later middle verses 25, 26, 27, somewhere there you'll find this. Right? Samyamam or samyamaha means quite, greatly, thoroughly, complete, fully, whole, complete. That's what it means. So he's saying when dharana, dhyana, and samadhi are completely merged into one technique, just like the breathing, internalization, restriction, or holding, and then exhalation. The same way, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, that's called samyama. How beautifully he's saying. So he says in this, he said, this means you can say that there are only 6 stages of yoga, not 8, but 6. How? Well, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, and then the other 3 comes pratyahara, right? And then the other 3 comes together, isn't it? He's saying do together, which is dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, but all compiled into one. So you got 6 stages. But to break it up and make it easier to consume, he has said 8 stages. So practice each one. But of course, once you become competent, from pratyahara, you can go straight, because you've already, withdrawn from the senses. So there is complete, contemplation. That contemplation gives you complete inroad into meditation, and that gives you complete linkage to samadhi. That's what this means, right? So he's saying sometimes when people are not careful, when they are in the stage of dhyana, they can fall back, they can slip back down into the dharana stages. And sometimes if they are completely in control from dharana, they can go into samadhi, dhyana, obviously. So sometimes you can go to dhyana and slip back. Sometimes you don't even have to go to dhyana, you can go to samadhi. Samadhi means at that stage where you are equal to that which is there from the beginning, which is your basic energy. So he bridged these 3 higher stages of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi together after pratyahara. So those 5 stages can be completely crucial in pushing you after pratyahara into samadhi. This is the success of a committed yogi or a yogini, where you can be in the world and not fall into the lower subtle world, but rise into the higher conscious energies. Verse 5, he's talking about tat jayat prajnalokaha. Tat means that, jayat means mastery, jayam, jaya, jayaha. Prajna means insight, and alokaha, prajnana lokaha means illuminating. From the mastery of that complete restraint of the mental emotional energies, one develops an illuminating insight. This is what it means. Tat jayat prajnalokaha. He's saying once you get there, you don't have to do anything. Automatically, it goes into the smooth mode. That what we call that in driving, you can put it on that mode and then you don't have to control, it just goes. Cruise control, yes, that's the word I was looking for. Your mind can be put in cruise control once you have completely mastered pratyahara. Dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, you can put in cruise control. It will just take you there. And this is what he means when he says, Tat jayat prajnalokaha. Beautiful is. Tasya bhumishu viniyogaha. Verse 6. Tasya bhumishu viniyogaha. Tasya means of this. Bhumishu means in stages, in piecemeal fashion. Viniyogaha means, the practice of doing something, the application, right? The practice, the method of employment, if you like. So he's saying, Tasya, this can only happen in stages when you practice things properly. So the practice of this complete restraint occurs in stages. It doesn't happen immediately when you sit down to meditate. First, you must have physical discipline. Then you must entail the moral discipline. Then you must sit in certain postures where the body is aligned. Then you must breathe so that the alignment of the body and the breathing collectively produces a sense of withdrawal. That's the pratyahara. Then you go into contemplation, being in that state. Then dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So he's talking about this complete restraint. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi is saying can only happen in stages. What are the stages? The pre-stages, right? Of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, and pratyahara. So if you are a student, getting into meditation, getting into dhyana, you have to do all of that. Otherwise, it's difficult. Right? So that is all the sutras for this week, week 9. Now, before I talk to you about the mudra that I want to share with you today, last week I spoke about Varuna Mudra. I think there is some misunderstanding, and some of you, sent me a message and things like that. So let me clarify, right? I taught you Varuna Mudra. Varuna is, of course, the god of water, right? Or liquid. Varuna is the god of rain, right? But the impact of the mudra, and if you remember, this is the mudra, right? This left hand, right hand, right? I said the power of this Varuna mudra lies in Vayu. That's why I focused on the breathing and concentrated on Vayu, your prana. So don't confuse between the name of the mudra and how you should practice that mudra, right? Although the mudra is called Varuna, the practice is Vayu. Put it in your heart chakra and breathe in, hold, and exhale, right? And I said 10 to 15 minutes in the morning and 10 to 15 minutes in the evening. Okay, so just to clarify for those of you who were confused. Okay, and the mudra that I want to share with you today is called, right, Padma Mudra. Padma Mudra. Padma means lotus, right? Lotus represents many things, right? Among that is something called compassion, kindness, love. And this mudra also represents positive transformation. Positive transformation which dissolves layers of mud and muck, slowly polishing your true self that is lying within, under the mud and under the muck. So the more it shaves off all this, mud and muck, these layers of untruth, your true nature comes to the fore. That is the true nature of your higher self or your Atman, right? So this mudra, Padma Mudra, Padma is lotus. If you see lotus in any lake or any, pond or any river or something, it will always be filled with a lot of dirt, mud and muck around it. But the lotus alone will be standing out and beautifully blossoming, right? If you focus on the mud and the muck around the lotus, you miss the beauty of the lotus. But if you focus on the beauty of the lotus, the mud and muck becomes irrelevant. So imagine a bouquet, right? And I'm giving you that bouquet and you're receiving it like a vase, so both your hands like this, right? And then you just open it, like how the flower blossoms, you see. And this is the lotus mudra or the Padma Mudra. So you can just put a bouquet of flowers in the middle there, right? So to speak. So your little fingers and your thumb are connected, but the rest are just open like that, right? Lotus Mudra. So you put it at your heart chakra, and then again, breathing in, holding, breathing out on one side and then the other side. So you can do that, if you want to know how long, maybe 21 times, breathing in, breathing out, right? One cycle is, one count of breathing is, you close one nose, you breathe in, hold, you breathe out, and then you breathe in the other side, and you release on this side, that is one. So you count 21 times like that. Should be fine in the morning or in the evening, right? That brings us to the conclusion of this week's Yoga Sutras. Next week, we will continue with week 10. Anyada sharanam nasti tumeva sharanam mamaha tasmat karunya bhavena raksha raksha yogishvaraha. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sai Ram.